So good morning, everyone. Now, we won't wait for everyone to join, but we have a handful of people already. So I'll start by introducing Diane, who is our facilitator for today. A little bit about Diane for those of us who haven't met her before. Diane is a passionate architect at the intersection of opportunities and talent. She brings more than 25 years of career development and management experience in the university environment to executive search and leadership development. So Diane joined the Human Capital Group in 2009, and then she's been able to incorporate her work with her keen sense of talent as a consultant in executive search. She embodies the motto, "We make a difference in your business by doing things differently in ours." Diane has enjoyed association affiliations over the past decade with the Western and Southern Associations of College and University Business Officers in Wakubo and Sakubo. And then she's also facilitated for Forte, SHRM, and HRM in Atlanta. Diane has earned degrees from Mackay University, Miami University, and the University of South Carolina as foundations for her role as career connector and educator. She also serves as a guest blogger for the Society of Human Resource Management in the areas of recruitment, retention, and employee satisfaction. So let's welcome Diane. Please get your questions ready as Diane begins to share tips with us on how to build connections that count. Diane, over to you.
All right, there we go. Where's my share screen? There we are. Yes, I want to do that. And let's bring this all the way up from the top. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity. Here in the US, we are getting ready to celebrate Memorial Day weekend, which to many is kind of the start of summer, but we're also celebrating our war heroes. So it's a really important kind of marker for many. So I appreciate that. It's nice and early for me, but it's good in middle of the day for you. So I just appreciate people coming out. This is really important to me, connections that count. How do we do this? Because right now we're all in the middle of this coronavirus. It's not going anywhere, and we're going to have to rethink everything we do. But I don't think our connection points are places that we need to rethink anything. So I'm going to give you some ideas today of what to do. And as Felicia said, please, I'm always ready for questions at the end. I want to kind of give you some content to noodle on. And then from there, I welcome the questions because they always help me remember what I missed along the way. We don't know what the next normal will look like, but we certainly know that we are continuing to understand how important we work together, no matter what the state or country boundaries are. And you know, this is kind of the setting the stage for what our new normal is. But again, I don't think connection points will change, even though we've got to do this remotely. When you think of it, I'm miles away from you, and look what we can do using technology. I'm gonna sing to you. Make new friends, but keep the old ones. One is silver and the other gold. And I think this is so important when we think about connections, because everyone thinks you can only have new connections or only have old connections. Like, no, you have to have a combination of both, and both are important for very different reasons. And so I always love that song because it reminds me that we can't think of connections only one way. They're definitely a two-part. And so for your former connections, for your current connections, for the people that are really your team, this is a great time to check in. And we're talking about checking in, you know, on our phones. We usually check into which restaurants we're at, but we're not doing that right now. But checking in for mental health purposes right now. How are you doing? Checking in with your colleagues that have lost their job. Checking in with your colleagues that might be furloughed. So it's that they haven't lost their job yet, but they're on leave until further notice. Those are stressful times. My sister-in-law is on furlough right now, and it's now 72 days in, and she spoke to me on the phone yesterday about how stressful it is not knowing what the next steps are. And she said, how long do I wait for my former employer? So important right now, and a great opportunity right now to check in with people who are your colleagues, people who are your mentors, people that you want to kind of get to know a little bit better. What an opportune time to have a virtual coffee. One of the things that happened this spring before all of this was I lost my father. Lost my father days before we were all marched into quarantine. And people have contacted me since in March and said, oh my gosh, this is what I remember about your dad. And funeral homes and a funeral tradition, I don't know that it's only US centric, is at funeral homes, people write a little card out and share a memory. And I don't want you to take these memories to your grave. So let's make sure we share with people how they've made a difference. Let's make sure we share with people what you've learned from them. Felicia said something to me this morning and I was digging in. Tell me more. What was the difference? What was that little secret sauce? What was that unique thing that you learned? Because I want to know that. And I want people to learn how important that is. Those are things that really help build our foundation. So instead of waiting until someone passes to share a memory, I'm going to encourage you to share memories now with your colleagues, your current list of people that are on your team, that are your cheerleaders. I remind people we need many mentors, champions, and sponsors along the way. And they usually have a connection point with you, and make sure you tell them what that is, because they might not know what it is. This picture is just perfect to me, especially in this kind of dark, deep spring that we've had. I love this picture, and this picture reminds me that it's important. This is an important time for us to reach and lift people up. And we don't only need to reach and lift people up that have lost jobs, but let's also reach and lift people up who are in work and really wondering what tomorrow will look like, really wondering what the next will look like. Let's do what we need to do and allow the sun to be seen behind us. Let's, in a very colleague spirit, reach and help someone to come up to the mountain with us. And this is just a really powerful message right now, because everyone's thinking it's dark. I want to go back to bed, put the covers over my head. I'm like, no, now is the time to do what we have to do to move forward. Let's show our resilience. And this picture captures it for me. Right now, again, with your current folks that are on the team that really support you, how can you tell them you're thinking about them? Through LinkedIn, through Facebook and other Instagram and social media, that's okay. But on the business side of things, how can you tag them and say, you've really made a difference? Or tag them and say, I think you need to see this article. Tag them and, again, showcase that you're thinking about them. You want these people to have you top of mind as they think of new opportunities. And I just can't stress enough how much this means to someone. And just take a minute to do it. And we're all using these other media resources to connect ourselves. LinkedIn is a fabulous one. Tag someone. Tell them you're it. How do you congratulate them? They get a new job on LinkedIn and it's noted, congratulate them. They have a work anniversary. They have a birthday. They have a wedding anniversary. Whatever, let them, show them your congratulations. I just think, again, what a great place to highlight and lift up someone that you've worked with before. Working with you is awesome. I had the grace of working with one of the most incredible servant leaders over my career. And he loved to get to the office early before everyone else. So he'd get there and he did 3 things. First of all the lights were on. Secondly, the coffee was on, which is really important in the US. We love our coffee. And so he'd get the lights on, he'd get the coffee made, so you smelled the coffee when you walked in. It was an old house that was transformed into offices. And the third thing he did is he took paper and filled up all the copy machines, all the printers around all the offices. And one day he was gone, he was on holiday. a support staff person came out to me, hands on her hip. She goes, you know what I just realized? I said, what's that? I've never put paper in this coffee machine the whole time I've lived here. The whole time I've worked here. What's up with this? And I said, you don't even know who does that. You don't know who the servant leader is who does that every morning so that you are never burdened with that task. And I knew one day I caught him because I was early in the morning and I caught him doing this. And he said, you know what, Diane, it's the little things. But to me, that showed incredible servant leadership to have the lights on, have the coffee made, and put paper in the coffee machines. Little things. Back in the day, we had to put paper in the fax machine too, but that dates me a little bit right there. So again, help people know that they're awesome to work with. How can you also take the LinkedIn systems that I hope that you're using and write a recommendation for a colleague that didn't expect it? If you want someone to write a recommendation for you, how do you ask them for one? How do you help them know what you want them to remember about you? These are powerful. These are powerful. Endorsing someone for a skill is light. Putting a recommendation out there of a couple sentences about someone, that's good. Do it. Put it out there. Show people that they made a difference, and here's how they made a difference. I love this from Albert Einstein, or so it said. This student is in line for the next Nobel Prize in the next 15 years. Take her or regret it. Love it, love it, love it. So those are some ideas of past, your current connections, the ones you already have. Now let's kind of look forward, the new friends, and think about who you want to connect with. Start creating a bucket list. Who do you want to meet? Who do you need to connect with? Who has a job that you say, oh, that's my job. I want to know what that person does. I want to know a little bit more. Start creating a list. Now, some people put on the bucket list people I can't help you find, because they go really big. But you can't be shy about who's on your bucket list. True story with the Forte Foundation. Felicia and I talked about this, one of the groups that I do anything for them whenever they call and ask. They're really all about helping women consider an MBA program, and I love their spirit of their work. One of their guest speakers at an annual conference was Adam Grant. I was a speaker at their conference too, and so we get out there. Before the morning started, our breakfast was served in our own private green room. I look around, Adam's the keynote speaker. There's no Adam in our big green room. And so I say to someone at Forte, I said, am I missing something? But where's Adam Grant this morning? And they said, oh, he has a private green room. And I said, private green room? Is there any way I could have coffee with him? And she goes, oh, they told me about you. Because I told my people at Forte that I really loved Adam. I loved his work. I loved his work. The first thing he authored was Give and Take, and then he authored Originals. And I said, I want to meet this man. And so this woman said, okay. She leaves, comes back to the green room, and she goes like this. And so I followed her in, and I said, I promise I will not spill coffee on him or anything because I have a little bit of energy. And I sat with Adam and had a few minutes. He had already had his breakfast, and we were sitting, and I couldn't ask him all the questions. I needed to know about him. I knew he was a Wharton professor. I knew what his book, Give and Take. I wanted to know what was next. You have to have good questions because when you have a minute to talk to someone on your bucket list, you got to be ready. And we had I felt like a delightful conversation, and I still have a picture in my phone of he and I posing together before his presentation. You got to ask for what you want. You got to do your homework, like I said. You can't ask people the things that are simple for you to find out, but you got to really dig in to figure out what is it you want to know. And so many people will connect with me and they'll ask me questions that they easily could have figured out by our website, by my LinkedIn profile. Instead, you want to ask questions that you can't find by your own research. And then most people have a big ask. What is that? And when do you ask that of someone who's a new connection? Generally, people connect with me and then immediately they come back with their big ask. And sometimes people come back and say, I want to be introduced to so-and-so because you're introduced, you know them, you're a first level connection with them. I want to be introduced to them. And I have to come back to them saying, I don't know you. How can I introduce you? I don't even know you yet. So you have, again, framing, what's your big ask and when is it appropriate to make that big ask? Right now, our whole world is kind of we're looking at our world through our rear view mirror because it's all we know. Our front windshield is a little bit foggy and we have the windshield wipers on and it's raining hard and the winds are blowing because we don't really know what the future will look like. So we're really posing everything kind of looking through our rear view mirror of what was. So the tough part of questions now about the big ask, and students will come to me and say, where are the next jobs going to be? I don't know. I know where the jobs were. Where are the next jobs going to be? Don't exactly know, but I can expect some of the industries that are going to bubble up as some of the next employers based on what we've seen in these last 72 days. Be ready for your big ask. Think about it and think long and hard about it and see if you can even answer your big ask before you ask someone else the question. Again, be ready. Someone, you might be having a conversation with someone via email and you ask for a virtual coffee. Maybe they say, let's hop on the phone right now. So be ready with the questions the minute you start this process of saying, I want to meet someone. Make sure you know what you want to ask them. Because right now, people have a little bit more time on their hands. And with that, I'm getting more and more people saying, wow, I just had a virtual coffee. I never thought that was possible. It's possible now. So be ready with the questions you want to ask them. And again, figure out connections and use LinkedIn. Many people, again, connect with me wanting to connect with someone else. I'm a connection to someone else they want. And so within LinkedIn, they figure that out. They're like, if I connect with you, then you can connect me with someone else. Know that the power of LinkedIn also allows you to connect with someone who's a third level connection. The way you do that is not through the connect button because it doesn't give you a connect button if you're a third level. You go to more, there's a more button, click on more, and the drop down within more says connect. Never connect without a message. Always connect with a personal message and tell me what it is you're looking for. But it's always amazing. People will connect with me and immediately say what they want next. They come back with their big ask, usually within 10 minutes of a connection. That's not really building the right spirit of a connection. What you're trying to do is build a connection and figure out how you can help each other, not it's all about me and here's what I want and I need. Just keep in mind that anytime you have an informational interview, it's not a job interview. You don't go in there and ask for a job. What you hope is you impress them enough that they come back and say, you know what, share a copy of your resume with me. I know I have your LinkedIn profile, but I'd like an actual copy of a resume so I can forward it on to some people in our group. That's a goal, but let's not go in there thinking that's the only way it was successful. It's all about information. And I just have to stress that. Thank people for giving you some time. If you do a cordial thank you after somebody says, wow, I love their follow-up. If they follow up this way with me, we want someone like that on our team. These little details make all the difference. So I just can't encourage that enough. And just know that people want to be thanked and appreciated, and gratitude makes you feel good and it makes that person feel good. And this moment of gratitude, and we need more gratitude right now, this is key. People will remember that. People remember you for that. And people rekindle that inner spirit with you. And don't forget how important that is. I was sharing with Felicia earlier. Yesterday, in my LinkedIn feed, one of the Forte Fellows from last summer that I met is starting her virtual online internship this summer. And she announced it. She's like, I'm so excited. It's going to be really different, but I think it's going to be really cool. And I popped her a message and I said, Meredith, so excited to hear from you. Great news. Give me an update. And she came back and said, that meant the world to me to have you pop me a message. Again, rekindling that spirit, helping, just knowing you just need cheerleaders. We all need cheerleaders right now. It's a bit dark outside. And although some days it's sunny and beautiful here in the spring, but there's a darkness. Let's rekindle the spirit. Let's bring that forward. Again, make new friends, keep the old ones. One is silver, the other gold. It's my pleasure. So that's kind of the content. Love to hear from you. What do you want to hear? What didn't I kind of answer about this? If you've got specific questions, love to have them, and I'd love to hear you audio them. And Felicia agreed that she was also going to help me with, being like the Q&A girl.
Yes, so I'm looking out for questions now. I know a lot of people have questions on their mind. So if you want to say something, just raise your hand and I will unmute you. Dan has a lot of answers, different ways of doing things. We're used to doing things in some way in this part of the world, but I know that some ideas I've gotten to you that I've put into practice has helped my career take a new turn. I've been able to pivot into this particular space of, encouraging women and pulling people up, amplifying others. So you may be looking to change your career. You may be looking to get a new job. You may be looking to connect to someone on LinkedIn. Just get tips today on how to go about this, because no one knows it all. Dan is here today to share her knowledge. And I'm telling you now, Dan, you're coming back soon. And we're going to have a longer time to talk, to suck from your brain and see how we can work together.
But I'll have nothing left if you take it all away.
Don't worry, you think so? We're not taking it all away, because the more you give us, the more you'll be getting in there.
No, that's how, when people are in job search, and right now, job search has been so tough.
Yeah.
And so many people have lost their work. And, again, I'm out there reaching out saying, how can I help you? And someone the other day said, here's what I really need. I need you to look at my LinkedIn profile. I need you to look at my resume. I want to make sure I'm presenting the story. And you and I talked about storytelling earlier. We all have a story, and we've got to love our story, and we've got to be fabulous storytellers about us. And in storytelling, it's not only it's all about me. It's how can I add value to you based on what I've learned about me? How can I add value? What's my lagniappe, which is a French word, the little something extra? What can I add?
So we have people who've already raised their hand. I have
okay.
Amaka is here. Amaka, please go ahead. You have to unmute yourself. Amaka, go ahead.
Yeah, yes. Hello. Thank you so much, Dan, for, the tips that you have given us so far. So my question relates to, LinkedIn and the other social media platform. How do you get to engage?
I'm losing it. How do I get to engage?
We didn't get the end of the question. Amaka, can you repeat the question, please?
Hello?
Please repeat the question. We didn't get the last part of the question.
How would you? Okay, so how do you get to increase your attractiveness to employer on the social media platform, including LinkedIn? How do you showcase yourself? How do you improve, on your visibility based on your social media and then LinkedIn and other things? How do you do that?
Oh, wow. So that's a whole workshop. I do a workshop, and maybe that's when we come back and bring. There is, and what I can do, Felicia, is send you I have a handout, the 7 deadly sins to avoid on LinkedIn to get you started. And I will just give you a couple quick things. First of all, on LinkedIn, the very first thing up is, what kind of picture do you have of yourself? And I always jokingly say, I love when folks kind of showcase that they're, a real person. And so I have a guy once with this fish. And he was proud of his fish. But that belongs on your Facebook page or your Instagram page, not on your LinkedIn page. LinkedIn is professional. So I said, ditch the fish. I'm like, fish belongs somewhere else. I said, I want a professional headshot of you on your LinkedIn page. Okay. And he said, but I wanted them to know a little bit more about me. I said, then the picture behind your picture could maybe have a lake or a river, and you just talk about nature and how important that is to you. And he goes, oh, ooh, back to the story. What's the picture behind your picture, and what's the story behind that? So those are two things. You have two places to give me a photo op. One, I want a view. Other, I want something that matters to you. And profile, if you change your profile below your profile picture, if you change your headline or billboard, those are the two things I call it. If you change that, I promise people will notice you more than if it just defaults to your current job title.
Okay. Thank you so much, Diane.
And we'll do a whole session on what we have to do with LinkedIn.
I think we need to do one on 7 deadly sins. I'm calling you back right after this to finish. I have Queensley here. She also has a question. Queensley,
go ahead. Absolutely.
Queensley.
Hi, Diane.
Hello.
Hi, Felicia. Thank you for this opportunity.
You're welcome.
Then my question is, I kind of feel like I'm old around when I'm with very younger folks who are actually in the mostly in employment and all that, and sometimes it's very difficult for me to connect with them because I feel like I'm older. I don't know if that means so much. I feel like I'm almost out of the job market, or
No. Look at all these gray hairs I've earned. Come on. No. We're not old. We're experienced. Let's bring our experience together and let's try to understand each other from each other's perspective. You both walk in different shoes, but don't say I'm old and I can't connect. Try to find the common ground. We're always looking for common ground, common connection points. So what's your question? You're saying you're feeling older than the younger set. What's the question behind it?
Yeah, the question is, sometimes I find it very difficult to actually connect with them. Sometimes they want to be my connection, especially when they read my profile. But sometimes I just decline it because I feel like these people, I'm very irrelevant to them because I'm a late starter. I'm just in my master's and I'm almost 45. So I sometimes decline those connections because I'm not sure what I can offer.
Well, so connection points, you've got to figure out how you want to use LinkedIn. So for me, I connect with people in LinkedIn that I always think of this. Can I refer them to someone else? Because I got to know something about them. How can I refer them to someone else? LinkedIn used to have this fabulous added feature with tagging where I could tag you and remind myself how I met you. They've taken that away. My tags were rich. I had lots of good intel on everyone, but don't have that anymore. You've got to figure out, if you're going to connect with someone, the why. So somebody might be connecting with you because they're interested in your job title, your job, where you work. You've got to figure out if you want to connect with them and kind of come at it with a different mindset. What can you learn from them? If that's something you want to do. I tend to, when I'm looking at mine, is I'm trying to figure out what my connection point is. Because I think it's fair game. If someone wants to be connected to someone else in my network, I should be able to make that connection and say something about you. Well, if I don't know you from Adam's house cat, which we always say here, how can I do that? But maybe you come back to that person and say, help me know why you want, what are you looking for in this connection? And maybe from there, that'll help you decide if you want to make that connection work.
Thank you, Dan.
Absolutely.
Can I answer your question?
Yes, to a great extent. But the thing is, most of these connections are actually people who can help. But I also feel like by the time they know how old I am, they just don't want people who are as old as I am. They want very young people.
No, I disagree. We need a balance of everyone in our workforce.
Okay.
So I'm just going to tell you, people who have more experience, we need the innovation out of both sides, the young folks and the little bit more seasoned. Don't shortchange yourself. At 45, you still have some years to work.
Okay, thank you. Boluwatito also has a question. Boluwatito, please go ahead with your question.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. So my question here is on CVs, because we've heard different rules about how your CV should be, what pattern you should take, and all that. I just need some clarifications, especially for those of us that would like to upgrade our CVs and all that. What are the expectations when it comes to our CVs?
Oh, excellent question. So everyone's CV, you call it a CV more than we would call it a resume. What you got to figure out is who's going to read it. And so with that, figuring out who would be the reader of your CV or resume and getting feedback from people like that. So in the US, we would say a CV would be much more for an academic type role. That's how, if in the US, that's how we would use the word CV. It would be like a faculty member, and it would be pages and pages and pages and pages and pages long, because they like to show what they've researched, what they've written, all of that. On the business side, sometimes that's not the case. Often it's not. And so with that, what does a CV need to look like depending on the jobs you're looking to do? So, again, back to your connections, and especially the connections you currently have and the mentors, champions, and sponsors you have in your world, as you finish your document, share it with someone and say, can I have some feedback, please? And be truly open to hearing the feedback. What about this? And so often I have to say to people, it's far too long. I'll never get to the end of the story. I want it to be, again, helping me understand where you will add value to my organization. Not all about yourself. How do you add value? Where have your successes been? Does that help answer some of the question?
Yes, I think it does. Someone else has a question.
Absolutely.
Kehinde Popola, please go ahead. I think he's off.
Okay.
He's gone off. But there's a question here. Someone asked me on LinkedIn, and I thought he's part of this, but I think he's going on and off.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Kehinde, go ahead.
Okay. Since my question is about the job loss out now, because presently I feel like, because I even have friends that have been affected, so they have been laid off. And on the other hand, on LinkedIn, I do see many job search. So how do we, like some of us that are just coming into the labor market, how do we increase our bargaining power?
How do you increase? I'm sorry, I missed that. How do you increase
Bargaining power?
I said,
as a fresh graduate.
Yes. I said, how do we increase our bargaining power with those people that have experience and we that are just coming into the labor market?
Again, it's making those connections with people. If you want to meet some people who have more experience than you, trying to reach out to them, and again, be ready in an informational interview, be ready to ask them the questions you're looking for. Right now, people are, the thing they're saying is, I've lost my job, and they're mad. Now, first of all, we got to get rid of some of that anger, because that's not going to work. You have to say, in this pandemic, I've lost my work. I'm now looking for my next career, my next chapter, and these are some things I'd like to pursue. If you have that spirit, people will hear you. If you come in mad going, I lost my job, it's not going to work. So again, the spirit you come with, in this, I've lost this. Here's what I'd like to do. Here's how I'd like to what I'd like to pursue moving forward. Can I connect with you? And again, right now, I'm getting more feedback that people are finding time to do informational interviews with people. The difficult part is, again, that rear view mirror is what we have to back up what we know, because we still don't know what will happen going forward. Some companies are saying, absolutely not, hiring freeze right now. hiring pause, maybe the beginning of 2021, we'll have some decisions. Well, if someone's unemployed, that's a long time between now and then. Think about the places that are hiring right now. And many people go, oh, Diane, I don't want to work in a grocery store or a pharmacy. But there's work there right now. There's important work. There's important work that needs to be done. What can you learn doing that kind of work now to set you in a very different space in the new year?
Thank you, Diane. So there's a question here that I got on LinkedIn, and I thought we'll address it here for Mama J-Lo Michael. He says, hi, Felicia, I trust you're keeping safe. Please, I need your help. I need a career shift, a change of job. This period is tough, I know, but I need to take a risk and a bold step to move ahead in life. I'd appreciate if you can help me and possibly discuss this further. So I thought we'll bring this up here, and we can see everyone who's in the same situation.
Somebody wants to take a bold step and do something new.
Yes.
You can tell me in your cover letter and your resume and your conversation how you're going to add value.
Okay.
Because you can say, I'm ready to take a bold step, but I want to know, I got to take a risk on you. If it's a bold step and it's a place you've never been, how are you going to add value and how will you translate that skill in a new role? Because right now people are like, I need a chance. I'm like, no. But why should I take a chance on you? Make the pitch for how you can make a difference, where your successes have been, and how they translate to this new work. And so often people get so centered on themselves, they don't think about what that company is looking for or potentially looking for. Because it's all about me. I'm like, no, it can't be about you. It's like, how do you add value to them? Think about the shoes they walk in versus the shoes you walk in.
Thank you so much, Dan.
You are so welcome.
I don't see more questions, but what I see from the majority of the questions we've addressed are people who want to either change from one career to the other, people who want to connect with others on LinkedIn, people who want to change jobs, maybe in the same industry. But the thing and the bottom line is the value and the telling your story part that you've mentioned. My story is different from Diane's story. Diane's story is different from Ken Dekokola's story and even Boluwatito's story. So I'm sure if we are able to tell our stories, it will be easy to move from one path, to one career path to another. So So I don't know if you have your final thoughts, Diane, before we call this quits, and then we'll reach out to you again for the next topic to benefit to everyone.
I think ending kind of with the story is, again, we always have a story and we've got to be ready to tell it. And right now, the biggest thing the advice I'm giving is people who have lost jobs. It's hard to lose a job. Your identity is tied to that. And I think that's the biggest stumbling block right now for many is they haven't really allowed it to soak in that this is now going to be different and I don't have this job. And yes, I've got a severance package, but that's going to run out soon. And that's going to run out before the next opportunity might happen, which makes them angry because it's like I'm being taken care of, but not enough. And so what I'm just stressing to people is think about your story. How do you add value to someone else? What have you learned? What have you done? What have your accomplishments been? Because all of that builds that story. But how you work through this transition is also important. I just think it's really, really important because it shows a lot about your emotional intelligence as you work through this. It's a tough time for everyone. And how do you say, this is what I've learned. This is how I want to come out of this. And really looking to how you're going to create your next. I'm not saying like the new normal. That's just really rubbing me the wrong way these days because I don't think there's going to be anything looking normal to us anymore. I think it's all going to be new. So with that, instead of saying, I want things to return to normal, because we'll be disappointed, I want things to return to next. And here's how I'm designing my next.
Thank you so much, Diane. I just want to do a recap of what you said before we call it quits.
Okay.
I promise we're not going to spend more than 40 minutes. and we're already on, so we've learned so much. So you mentioned telling your story. What are your achievements? What have you done? What value do you bring on board? How well can you walk through this time, this situation of no jobs, of layoffs, of furloughs? How do you do this? And then what have you learned that you can transfer to another role or to another job or beyond now? And, I also don't feel comfortable saying the new normal. I'd rather say what is next, because we always have to move on without having to look back and, having too much regret. Yeah, we have regrets, but what will the regrets do to us to get to the next level? And then you talked about how to come out of whatever it is we're going through now, and then to create our next value for the next employer or for the next business owner we're working with. So then we've really come, this far, and we've learned so much. I'm sure people are, writing comments that these are great tips, super awesome session, clear experience, and you've shared, Diane, so many good things here being talked about this session. So thank you, Diane, for joining us. Thank you for sharing your experience and for telling us how to move to the next level. And we hope.
And again, if we want to talk about LinkedIn in more detail, you know how to find me.
Yeah, so Diane's details are on the screen, so please reach out to her. Don't forget to introduce yourself. Let her know you came for the webinar and you'd like to connect with her to learn more, and she'll be able to help. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Diane. And I'll catch you up later.
Everyone have a fabulous rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.